So we finally have an update about an AEW video game, actually multiple AEW video games. The AEW Games announcement has literally just gone off the air, just finished its premiere on YouTube, so a little bit sort of scattered here about what's going on, but we've got 3 video game announcements by All Elite Wrestling, some exciting, some a little less exciting, but certainly very, very newsworthy, so we'll go through it. Now before I get into any of this, I must say that I by no means am any video game expert. I played my fair share of WWE and wrestling video games over the years, especially when I was younger. The first pro wrestling video game I ever played was No Mercy on Nintendo 64, arguably one of the greatest video games of all time. I also played the likes of, SmackDown, SmackDown 2, SmackDown Shut Your Mouth, SmackDown Here Comes the Pain, all the SmackDown versus Raw. So I would like to consider myself to be pretty well versed in the WWE and pro wrestling video game genre, but I haven't played it for a few years, I must say. As you get older, you do tend to play them less. They are skewed at the younger market. If it's a good game, though, I will obviously play it. And with the AEW game, if it gets good reviews, then sure, I will play it too. So that is something that I was interested in. That's why I watched the announcement. I obviously watched the announcement because it's newsworthy, but I wanted to see what AEW had to offer. Obviously, over the last few years, the WWE video games have been highly, highly criticised, haven't they? Because of how bad they've been and some of the glitchiness of it. Obviously, last year, WWE 2K20 was so bad, it actually made numerous top 10, top 20, top 50 lists of the worst video game of the year, maybe all time. It was that bad, it was that glitchy. It was actually to the point where it was embarrassing for WWE how bad it was. So I wanted to see what AEW had to offer. Of course, Kenny Omega is well known for being a video game guy, isn't he? He's a video game guy. He's been talking about a video game. AEW have been talking about video games for a while, what they're going to offer, and given that you had people like Kenny Omega heading up the AEW games division, obviously being a prominent gamer and streamer, you'd like to think that they were going to offer something very, very interesting, unique, what the fans want and what the fans expect from not just a pro wrestling video game, but a video game in general. So I was very excited and interested to see what their announcement was for the AEW games. Now also, all of the information did actually leak online earlier today. I managed to keep pretty far away from that, but there's only so much you can stay clear of when it comes to social media nowadays, especially when it comes to spoilers. So I did have a clue of what was going to happen, and it was pretty much what had leaked online earlier, but nevertheless, it was very interesting. Before I also go into it, what I do want to say is that the announcement was scheduled for 6 p.m. Eastern time, so that's 11 p.m. over here in the UK, and it was delayed. It was delayed. It was delayed initially. Oh, it's going to happen at 6 p.m. No, then maybe 6:15, then maybe 6:30. We're going to go premiere on YouTube at 6:45. It was 6:45 p.m. Eastern time in the 11:45 p.m. over here in the UK that it got delayed. And, I'm not going to complain about it or anything like that. What I will say is it's not a good look. It isn't a good look. When it comes to video games, right, half the battle is getting it released on time and getting its release date right. Even with WWE and the 2K game last year, it got released obviously too early because it was so glitchy. So if your announcement video is delayed by 45 minutes. That isn't exactly an amazing look for when the video game is going to be released. Now, they didn't do any release dates for any of these games announced today. They just kind of, especially for one of them, said it was going to come later this year, but we'll touch on that in a second. But I just thought it was something ironic about that, video games, half the battle is getting it released on time. Its release date, is it ready for when it's about to be released? And even the live stream was delayed 45 minutes. So that was a good start. But nevertheless, let's get into what AEW announced during this stream, during this premiere on YouTube about AEW games. It was headed up by Kenny Omega, and it was a bit of a spoof on the Apple events, right? It was Kenny Omega came out dressed as Steve Jobs. We actually had various AEW wrestlers at certain points come out dressed as Steve Jobs, but it was meant to be a play on the Apple events, right? When Steve Jobs back in the day would come out and he would be in his black turtleneck and his jeans and in his white sneakers, and he'd have the clicker in his hand and he'd be talking about the iPhone, the iPad, the iMac, whatever. It was meant to be like that. It was meant to be representative of an Apple event. So Kenny Omega comes out. He talks about signing with AEW, and one of the key things he was looking for when he signed with AEW, when he's speaking to Tony Khan about his contract, was the AEW video game. I want to be in charge of AEW games. I want to head up the AEW games division. I want to give the fans a video game that they want and they deserve. And they played it for comedy because Kenny Omega says this is a very early development trailer, and then he showed essentially an 8-bit kind of deal, an old school trailer, blurry, and it just was pictures of Kenny Omega and Jon Moxley fighting off. It was played for comedy. It was funny. But Kenny Omega said that he wanted an easy to pick up, difficult to master video game like NBA Jam, NFL Blitz, or Ken Griffey Jr. Slugfest. He said that it would actually be more like No Mercy or Virtual Pro Wrestling. And then he showed what he called the very early development of the AEW video game. Now, he said it would be available on current generation consoles, so I'm assuming PS4, Xbox. But then also he mentioned that it would also be available for next generation consoles, so obviously the PS5 and the next Xbox that is about to come out will come out today. I've seen the stuff online about people struggling to get their Xboxes and PS5s and all that kind of stuff. But they did show a brief trailer. He did say it was very, very early development, and he actually said, so keep that in your mind, because it might not even look like that. The game might not even look like this, but this is an early trailer. And essentially what we got in the trailer, we had Kenny Omega and Chris Jericho facing off, and then they had a bit of back and forth, a bit of action. Kenny Omega goes for a move, Jericho goes for a Judas effect, and then we see Hikaru Shida come into it in the trailer, and Hikaru Shida essentially beats the crap out of Kenny Omega. And that was the game. And like he said, it was very much a work in progress. It's very much something that's in development at the moment, so keep that in mind. What I will say when it comes to that, obviously we didn't get any information about the game modes, whether it's going to have, a career mode, whatever. We saw at the end of it, it's going to, I think, have like a creator wrestler deal, because they had like the old school red and white, red and green guys doing like you would have in creator wrestler mode in the old WWE games. It is going to be produced by Yukes. So again, I've seen some people sort of go, oh, is that any good, and all that kind of stuff, because historically they haven't been amazing when it comes to their production of games. I believe they were with WWE previously. But I suppose it's a case of, are they going to be any good as well? That's also a discussion as well, I guess. But again, I don't know much about the development side of things. All I can comment on is what I saw. So what we did see was the graphics. We didn't see anything about the game mode. We didn't see anything about the career mode or anything like that. The graphics, I've seen a bit of various opinions about the graphics online, because obviously it's always great to see social media when these things happen. I thought, okay, let's start off with the positive. I thought Hikaru Shida, the graphic of Hikaru Shida, I thought looked actually quite good. I thought Hikaru Shida looked good. I thought the AEW Dynamite Arena looked good. We'll have some screenshots up on the screen now as well, so you can kind of see what I'm talking about here. I thought the Hikaru Shida screenshot, the graphics rather, looked good. I thought the AEW Dynamite Arena, I thought that looked good. I thought the set looked good. The way that the characters moved, and if that is legitimately how they will move in the game and the move set, I thought that looked good. What I will say is I didn't think, and again, I know it's very, very early in development, what I didn't think looked good was the Kenny Omega and especially Chris Jericho. I thought the graphics for Jericho looked bizarre, really bizarre. I think Jericho in real life, he's not exactly stacked anymore, and he's not exactly in the shape of his career, but the graphics in this one, Jericho looked bloated. He looked fat. I don't want to fat shame, but his character, can you fat shame a virtual person? I don't know, but Jericho looked bizarre. Kenny Omega's chest, Alex mentioned it, Alex McCarthy on social media mentioned that Kenny Omega's chest looked sewn together. It looked just bizarre, and his face render looked bizarre as well. So I thought the Jericho and Omega graphics looked very, very odd. Very, very odd. And what I will say, though, about that is, again, it's early in development, and graphics aren't everything for me when it comes to a game. Obviously, if it's ridiculous, and they're ridiculously bad, it does take you out of it. For instance, I think back to the Booker T. Booker T had a render I saw on social media last year on the WWE 2K20, and that was that. And then you look back on to, say, I don't know, WWE Raw, even how terrible that game was on the Xbox back in the day, or on some of the SmackDown vs. Raw games, or on the WrestleMania on the GameCube, WrestleMania 19 on the GameCube back in the day. Those graphics were better than the Booker T render last year. I was so surprised when I saw that, because again, I haven't played video games in a few years, and I saw that when the graphics have got worse. They've got worse. They don't look good. And it was kind of the same with the Jericho and Omega graphics there. I thought it just looked bizarre, really, really bizarre. And again, it's a work in progress, so I'm hoping they will get better. But if that is the graphics, then, ugh. But again, graphics aren't everything. I think the real selling point of this game is going to be the career mode, the modes they have in the game, obviously the roster available, how smooth the wrestlers are in the ring, all of that kind of stuff. That's what I played the pro wrestling video games for when I was young, was for the career modes and the modes that they had on there. If the season modes were great, for me, like SmackDown 2 has one of the best career modes for me. You could pick what division you were going to go in, and it had a story that just lasted forever, and it was different storylines, and it was great. So when it comes to this, obviously the graphics are slightly important, but we didn't hear or see anything about the game modes, and I think that's the key thing when it comes to these games. So they didn't even give it a title. They don't even think they gave it a solid, they definitely didn't give it a solid release date. They just said that this was early development. So this was something that we'll have to wait and see. Again, wasn't blown away by the graphics, but we'll have to wait and see on that one. So after Kenny Omega announced the game for the PlayStation and Xbox, out come Aubrey Edwards. Now Aubrey Edwards, obviously referee in AEW, she was also dressed as Steve Jobs. That was the running gag going through this thing. Now if you're not familiar, Aubrey Edwards, actually prior to signing with AEW, did work in mobile games. She worked in mobile games. So obviously she did her same story as Kenny Omega, saying, when I signed with AEW, I spoke to Tony Khan and said, I want to be involved in creating AEW's mobile game. And that is exactly what Aubrey Edwards has been involved in. So she revealed the AEW Elite General Manager game for mobile. Now, to be honest, this was the one that I'm excited about the most. I must say, I am really excited about this because GM mode on SmackDown vs. Raw, growing up, that was the mode for me. That really was. And I know people have their games. They mentioned No Mercy a couple of times in this premiere. And I know, for me, my favourite pro wrestling games growing up, obviously No Mercy has to be up there. But also, as I mentioned, SmackDown 2 was a real fun game for me. SmackDown Shut Your Mouth, SmackDown Here Comes the Pain. I thought they were just awesome games and I really loved playing them. But what I did really enjoy about those SmackDown vs. Raw games, like everyone, was the GM mode. Everyone loves GM mode and they've been desperate for years and years and years. Bring back GM mode, bring back GM mode. And WWE and 2K, for whatever reason, haven't done that. But AEW have. They've brought back GM mode for a mobile game. So it's AEW Elite General Manager mode. And in the trailer that we saw, essentially, it's like GM mode was in the past. You have a budget, you buy your wrestlers, you have your cash flow, you get your star ratings for your matches, you have events throughout the year. It's really interesting. And I think that does really work and lend itself really well to a mobile game. So I'm really excited about that one. Out of all the announcement that they did here, I felt like the mobile game was the one that I really was excited about the most. I am excited about the mobile game. What I am slightly concerned about when it comes to the mobile games, and I think everyone is when it comes to these mobile games, is that one, obviously you have to question the quality of graphics and quality of how they play. I think with most modern smartphones they should run fine. I think the biggest concern when it comes to any mobile game is microtransactions, right? With any mobile game that you ever play, whether you download it from the App Store or you download it for iTunes or you download it from Android or anything like that, it's just filled to death with microtransactions, isn't it? You can't excel in a game without microtransactions on a mobile game. Now, that microtransactions, they're in everything. They're in every video game, aren't they? Especially nowadays. And obviously, I do understand the necessity of them, and I do understand the business point of them, But I think nowadays, and I would like to hope this, maybe I'm wrong here, again, I'm not fully in the video game industry or I'm hardly an expert on them, but I feel like nowadays people are kind of pulling away from microtransactions as a user of video games, maybe not the companies themselves, but a lot of companies are getting a lot of flack and a lot of stick if they do include a lot of microtransactions. So it'll be really interesting to see if this AEW GM game on mobile is going to include a lot of microtransactions. That was my big concern about all of this. Was I think the concept is great. I really do think the concept is great. And I do hope, regardless of this Elite General Manager mobile game, I hope a GM mode is included in the AEW game on Xbox and PlayStation. But I think as a mobile game, I think this is a great idea. I think it is a really good idea. I really like the idea of having that on the phone, doing that all the time on the phone. I think that's really exciting. And again, I hope it's also involved in the on the games on the main consoles, on the next generation consoles, on the current consoles. But I think it's a great idea. My only concern is about microtransactions for this one, because that is just what mobile gaming is. So that is my concern there. But I think it's a great idea. And out of all the ones that they announced in this announcement, this was the thing I was the most excited about. I do think it has a lot of potential. And again, it's just GM mode. I'm such a fan of GM mode. I grew up with GM mode. It's what I spent hours and hours playing as a kid. And WWE, for whatever reason, and 2K have refused to put it back in the games. But AEW have spotted the gap in the market there. And you have to give them credit for that. And that is something I really am excited about. So next, during the announcement, they had Britt Baker come out. She was also dressed as Steve Jobs. This was just a comedy bit. This had nothing to do with the games. She announced that an AEW Games t-shirt had been made. That was it. That really was it. So I didn't really get the Britt Baker bit there. I guess, you know, AEW, they're a t-shirt company, right? They're just a t-shirt company. They had to get that t-shirt plug-in. Maybe it was that. Regardless, the t-shirt, it was just a t-shirt with the logo on. There's not really much to say. But next, as Kenny Omega was wrapping things up, we had Cody Rhodes come out as well. So Cody Rhodes was next out, and he was going to announce the next game, because 3 games, as I mentioned, have been announced by AEW coming up. Now, Cody spoke, he kind of parodied the speech that Kenny Omega and Aubrey Edwards gave when they came out. He said that when he signed with AEW, he said to Tony Khan he wanted to be the head of AEW Games. And Tony said, no, you don't know, I can't curse on YouTube, but you don't know nothing, essentially, about video games, which is true. But regardless, nevertheless, Cody said that during his hiatus away from AEW, right, when he was written off of TV because of Brody Lee's attack, in reality, he was filming a TV show. But he said, actually, whilst he was away, he was getting something ready for right now. Whoa. Right now. A game we can play right now. An AEW game we can play right now. Not right now. No, because they didn't give a release date, and they also didn't give an exact date either as to when this was coming out. They just said that this game is going to be coming out in the winter. That's exactly what it was. It was just going to be coming out in the winter. But we had a trailer where you see all of the AEW wrestlers in a casino, and Kenny Omega's outside of the casino, and people are trying to get in, and Kenny Omega says you can't come in because you're not wearing a jacket. You see the likes of the Dark Order playing Roulette Wheel. You see Britt Baker, Private Pie, Santana and Ortiz playing, I think it's Blackjack or something like that. All of that is about the Double or Nothing AEW Casino Double or Nothing game. So this is the second mobile game. Out of the 3 games announced, 2 of them were mobile games. And one of them, which was announced by Cody, was this AEW Casino Double or Nothing game. Now, to be honest, out of all of the announcements, out of the 3 announcements here, this is the one I really do care for the least. I understand the purpose, and I understand the gap in the market for these casino games. I'm a bit, I don't want to sound like a prude, but I'm a bit concerned, like, if this is a casino game, I'm assuming this is legitimate gambling. I mean, again, I don't know about these casino games. I don't know if they are legitimate gambling or if they're just, you know, like fun roulette games. I don't know how that works, or you purchase coins in the game and then you gamble with them. I don't know, but it's a gambling game. It's a casino game. So I'm assuming in the way that their trailer presented this, it's going to be a case of, you know, like when you go into casinos or you go into where arcades and stuff like that, and you would have like a themed a themed fruit machine or a themed roulette wheel or something like that. I'm essentially, this is all what it's going to be. So you would have the MJF roulette wheel or the Cody Rhodes pinball machine or the Chris Jericho blackjack game or something like that. I'm assuming it's all going to be related to that. So I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that one. Like, if it's legitimate gambling and legitimately people spending their actual money on the game. Ooh, I don't know what about that look for AEW. I think you'll make money because casino games make a ton of money. Casinos make money, so I have no doubts about that, and it makes sense if it's, you know, their whole pay-per-view, that Double or Nothing pay-per-view is based around, originally it's in the MGM Grand, it's in Las Vegas, it's all about the roulette wheel and all of the casino element to it, so I totally get that, and they have casino battle royals pretty much every pay-per-view. I just don't care for a gambling game, a casino game, or anything of that nature. As I mentioned, Cody said this was coming out at the end of the year. Well, I said winter of 2020. When that is, they didn't announce. Considering we're in November now, and there's about, 7 weeks left of the year, they've got to get out pretty quickly. So I'm guessing in the coming days, we will find out about an actual release date when it comes to the AEW Casino Double or Nothing game. Again, I don't really care for it. It's not for me. But I'm sure it does serve a purpose. We'll have to wait and see. And then finally, Kenny Omega announced at the end of the event that Gator, who famously directed the No Mercy video game on the Nintendo 64, arguably the greatest pro wrestling game of all time. He is the legendary developer in Japan. He is overseeing this AEW video game on the current consoles and next generation consoles. So that's a massive, massive deal. This guy oversaw and directed one of the greatest, if not the greatest, pro wrestling video game of all time, and Kenny Omega and AEW have gone out to get him. That's a big statement. That's a statement of intent. That's AEW saying, we really do care about getting this game right. That is, to me, at least Kenny Omega trying to live up to the promise of, you know, this is a pro wrestling game made by gamers. So we're going to try our best to get this right. So you have to give credit to AEW for that. And they have Gator involved. And he sent a bit of a message saying he was looking forward to creating this game. And hopefully they could deliver a game that all of the fans enjoy. So I think that's a big deal. That's a big deal. So that was about it. It's certainly interesting. As I mentioned, in terms of the console game, thought the graphics looked iffy, to say the least. But we didn't get much more details about it, so it's difficult to judge. It's very difficult to judge that one. Again, I don't know much about developers, so when it comes to Yukes, I really don't know. So if you do know, you can let me know in the comments. Interested and excited for the Elite General Manager GM mode. I think that has a ton of potential. Take away the microtransactions though, let's make sure that's not in there, but I think that's really, really exciting. And then it comes to the Casino Double or Nothing game. Look, I understand it. It serves a purpose. That's just how video games work, especially mobile games. The market for mobile games that involve gambling and involve that kind of deal, I totally get that. It's just not for me. And again, I'm not sure about the message it sends, but that's just my opinion. Of course, as I just mentioned, this is only one man's opinion. What are your thoughts on the AEW video games announced during tonight's special event hosted by Kenny Omega? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I'll be sure to respond and reply to all of your comments. Really enjoy interacting with you guys, chatting about pro wrestling here on the channel. So be sure to leave a comment. If you have enjoyed this video, please do smash a like on the like button. It really does help us out here on YouTube. Go up the rankings and get into people's recommendation feeds if they haven't seen our videos previously. But most importantly, if you haven't already, please do subscribe to Wrestle News 365. You can do that by clicking the bottom right hand corner of the screen right now, or if you wait a few seconds, there'll be a subscribe button at the end of this video along with another video for you to watch. Thank you very much for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today, and I'll speak to you again very, very soon. Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.